I'm going to start with Tracy Wilkes, who is an SVP with CSE. She represents network clients both on and off air. Teddy Petrozzi and I work together at United Talent Agency, otherwise known as UTA, and he is a digital talent agent. And Sharon Chang and I go way back, and she's a partner and agent at William Morris Endeavor, otherwise known as WME. And she's in the non-scripted television department and broadcast group, which includes sports and news and unscripted. So, Sharon, what does non-scripted mean?
It's so interesting because non-scripted, in the past, everyone would always think of it as reality shows, right? And really put non-scripted in a box. But what it really means is nonfiction. So anything in that kind of broader space that's not scripted. So we can talk about a game show. We can talk about a documentary. We can talk about a reality series like The Kardashians. We can talk about broadcast talent on morning shows. We can news broadcasting. We can talk about sports talent, whether they're doing play-by-play or sideline reporting or a contributor or analyst. So anything in just under that umbrella of nonfiction. But again, not just television, but also now streaming and anything that is, again, in that kind of broader television video space.
Okay. So Teddy, you represent digital talent.
Yes.
So tell us what digital talent means and where we would see some of your clients.
For us, it's, we don't like to use the word, but influencers. We like to say creators. And I mean, I think it goes without saying that the majority or all of our talent live on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Those are our main channels. We do have a lot of crossover though. There are people who transition from film and television, and then they transition to digital. But a lot of what we do is we are the ones that are identifying those in the market that we can then quarterback into other areas of the industry. So, somebody who is huge on TikTok today might be, an unscripted or a scripted star tomorrow. And that is what we spend our days doing, going out. We're paid to sit on TikTok and scout talent. And it's one of those really great opportunities that, we're really identifying who's out there and getting it all across the board. So it's been fun.
Great. Tracy represents broadcast talent as well, both on and off air, like I said, but we work together on contributors. So will you give these guys a sense of what a contributor is in this space?
Absolutely. So I have the benefit of working with a lot of journalists that are in some niche spaces, and then also some personalities that are also in niche spaces, either a doctor, for instance, who might want to have a brand that's larger just than practicing. And so essentially what we'll do is we'll pitch the doctor to some networks and see if we can land a contributor deal where the doctor will go on and lend some, information day in and day out about the medical space. So, that's a classification in which a contributor would fall under. And, that could be a political contributor as well. I also represent those. Just different niches that add value to a network would fall under the contributor space.
Right. Okay, great. So let's talk about career path. And so probably movies and TV shows you've seen, it's a foot in the door as people work in the mailroom and then they move up and suddenly they own the talent agency. But I want to just get a sense from Teddy, if you will, talk about your path to where you are now.
Yeah, I mean, I did start in the mailroom. I started at WME, which is where Sharon, you work now. And I actually started my career in the UTA or the WME speakers division. So we represented celebrity speakers, and it wasn't just people speaking at, things like this. It was where they would hire, actors and athletes to speak at large corporate events. And the great thing about that, which I loved, was it really gave me that opportunity to work across departments. I was working with actors, athletes, broadcasters, musicians, authors, etc. And at the time, digital talent wasn't really a thing. Instagram had just kind of been invented. Twitter was really like the main social network at the time, and Facebook had just kind of plateaued. And then through some, just different career changes, I ended up at IMG Models, and WME acquired that company at the time. And I decided I really wanted to go into talent representation. I was like, I want to make models into actors. I had this whole plan in my head that I was going to do. And then through the course of that, I was working on, I wasn't a direct model manager. I was working for a manager there who was securing brand deals outside of traditional model talent. Like they were taking models like Gigi Hadid and putting them in BMW commercials, taking them out of the fashion world. And through that, as a young millennial, I was able to say, hey, I was identifying the opportunities to amplify on social media. And we were able to add, anywhere from 5 to 6 figures to existing deals just by having the talent post. And that for me evolved into what I do now, and taking that knowledge of, educating my superiors on Instagram and the different ways to implement content and monetize it. And then, through the course of that, I was able to build a career out of it. And from there, I went to another agency where we had a dedicated board where all we were doing was signing at the time. Again, I hate to use the word influencers, but it was another modeling agency, so it was very heavy in the fashion space. And during this time, TikTok started to take off. And from there, we were really understanding the way to, maximize on content, monetize both platforms. And then through that, I was able to move into UTA and become an agent. And I think, it was a 10-year ladder. I climbed it. And I think going into that business, the goal for me was always to become an agent. And that is how I got there. A lot of it was trial and error and just kind of, making my own path while using the resources that had been presented to me.
Sharon, what was the beginning of your path, and what were some of the responsibilities you had?
So I took a very circuitous path. It wasn't as if I knew that I wanted to be an agent. I didn't even know what that meant. So I began at a network, at a television network, worked at CBS Sports, worked my way up, and I was basically, around your age, given the responsibility of being head of talent, director of talent. And because of that, I was working very closely with agents. We had some of the best, and they're still around, but the best sports broadcasters within CBS Sports with the best talent agencies, just kind of working closely with them. Eventually, what ended up happening, CBS had lost the NFL, which was a big, big deal at that time. And it was just a different place, a different feel. And I felt as if it was time for me to make a different move. But IMG, which at the time had a broadcasting group, they came to me. They were one of the agencies that I worked with very closely. They asked me if I wanted to try the other side. So instead of me in the role of director of talent as a quote unquote buyer, which Mary knows what that means, they wanted me to sell. And so, would you like to be an agent for IMG? So I joined IMG and really started representing sports broadcast talent and then news broadcast talent. At the time, local news was really, really burgeoning. Cable news was hot at the time. So really built a business out of news and sports broadcast talent. And then in 2014, WME acquired IMG. They decided to get rid of the broadcast group at IMG. And instead, I then moved under WME Non-Scripted, and it was an incredible cultural shift, change for me. And again, not only representing talent, but also production companies. And then some of my colleagues, they represent showrunners, they represent doc directors and producers. So it's a kind of a broad swath of different types of opportunities under that umbrella. And I've been at WME since then.
So, college-wise or university-wise, majors and stuff like that, Tracy, I don't know, I'm curious what we all sort of major in stuff, but Tracy actually went to law school.
Yeah.
So, do you feel that it was a leg up? I'm sure it is, but just talk about the benefit of going to law school and being an agent, if you would.
And so I'll just loop that into my background as well. So yes, law school graduate, and came out wanted to, practice, and I figured this is what I want to do, but I found out quickly that I wanted to use my personality, and I really wanted to connect with people, and I felt that through agenting, that might be the way to go. So for me, I wound up going to a boutique agency, and at this agency, it was like, you have to do it all, literally all, and your experiences, obviously there's other support, but where I was for almost 10 years, I was literally the attorney, I was negotiating the deals, I was redlining, and then I was also agenting at the same time. So I could not have gotten that role without my law degree. I do not think that you have to be an an attorney to be an agent, obviously. You can have a lot of different other disciplines and interests beforehand and then go into being an agent. But I found it to be really beneficial for me. Clients love it. They're easily persuaded by the fact that I have that degree, and it gives me confidence as well as I just go through the practice of agenting. And then with my career, I went from this boutique agency to a middle-sized agency called CSC, where I am now, and I've been here for 10 years, representing broadcasters in news and sports and doing a lot of various deals. And what I've enjoyed about it is that I work now with legal affairs, and I have a great banter with them, and just the skill set to be able to easily understand terms, and that I might not have if I didn't have the law degree. So it certainly has been pretty beneficial for me.
So why don't we talk a little bit about, since we're on the subject of negotiating and stuff like that, about contracts and what are the negotiating and things like that. So do you want to talk a little bit about that, Sharon? So I mean, even like sort of the A, B's, and C's a little bit, right? You get offered a job. Let's just talk about on-air people, right?
Yeah.
A network or cable, somebody comes to you, they offer you a job. You say, that's great, call my agent. So go ahead, agent.
Yes.
What do we do?
Usually what happens, especially in news and sports broadcasting, there is either a head of talent or someone that is in the talent group that would do the initial negotiating. And so what I would do is just negotiate a lot of the business parts of the deal. So money, any type of perks, travel,
Title.
glam,
Title.
title, responsibilities, those types of things, right? Then, so we would come up with kind of that broad stroke. Here's the really the deal points, business deal points. After that, we then get a long form contract, and that's when they bring in the network or the streaming channel or whatever buyer they are. They would bring in their lawyer. And so long form, all agents usually have a business affairs department. So I would then bring in I shorten it by saying BA. So my BA attorney would join me and start to really look at the entire long form agreement. And then they would make sure that all of the business points are there, but also they would take a look at like right to match, like post-term language. I don't want to get too granular, but there's a lot of different things that we try to just make sure that there is it's beneficial to our clients, right, and not just one-sided to the network. So they really take a close look at those legal points. And then we again go back and forth a little bit, and then finally come to terms with having that contract signed. But there are so many different types of contracts, and Mary knows this well with when we're talking about news and sports. Usually there are multi-year deals, more than a year, maybe 2 or 3 years the most. And then we have sometimes in our brand partnerships group, it's just a term sheet. Or if it's in our speakers group, it's just a deal memo. So there's different types of contracts for different types of responsibilities.
And I'll say for people interested in the news contracts tend to be very limiting in many ways because you're a journalist. So very often they're not going to want you. Certainly, you can't endorse products. You can't. Sometimes you can't even give speeches. They really want to know because you're representing that network. So unlike news divisions, Teddy. What are some of the creative things that can you tell us a little bit about your negotiating and?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of ours 90% of what we do in digital is brand deals. The rest of it is, securing talent in different areas of the industry, whether it's a podcast or a speaking opportunity or a similar activation like that. But the bread and butter of what we do is brand deals. So a lot of it is pre-negotiated, I'd say. An offer comes in, we hammer out the deal terms, and then it goes into contract phase. And from there, we really rely on the lawyers and the BA that we have to go, because what we do is we kind of do it reverse than I used to do. Now we require the brand to supply us with a contract versus UTA providing one and saying, these are the deal terms that you guys have to agree to. It's easier for us to redline something that they send us. So that way the lawyer can come to me and say, hey, did you agree to this, 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 and this when you negotiated the offer and got that firm offer in? And I can say, no, they're liars, which, a lot of times they try to, brands think that if I'm not on the chain, they can sneak extra language into a contract. But our lawyers are really good about saying, like, hey, did you agree to this? It doesn't seem like your style. Because that's the thing is, like, a lot of the BAs and the agents get to really know each other. And they know, for example, that that we're not going to agree to something that's outlandish. So if a, bizarre piece of language is slipped in there, we immediately get an email that says, did you agree to this? And, more often than not, it's no, we didn't. They're trying to pull a fast one. But I'd say that, yeah, the majority of what we do before it goes into a contract is all pre-negotiated by me.
Can I piggyback
yes,
on something
please.
you said,
Yeah.
Mary? So when Mary said that in news, because they're journalists, that they're not able to do brand deals and sometimes not able to do speaking deals. But in sports, it's wide open.
Right.
You can do brand deals. You can do speaking deals. And even in news, you could do book deals, but both could do book deals. So there's a lot of flexibility in sports and in entertainment as well.
That makes it more fun too, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
So this job, this career, is not it's not a day-to-day job. It's not something you can say you go in and every day you do the same thing. Not even remotely close, I think. That's so Tracy, can you give us some highlights of to put you on? I'm going to put you all on the spot to be thinking about this. Some highlights of the last couple weeks of some things that made this job really interesting for you.
Sure. Well, we were just talking about the fact that we were all at the events leading up to the White House Correspondents' Dinner. So, so basically, it's exciting because I'm going down to DC and I'm entertaining clients that are there for the dinner and that cover the White House day in and day out and are, having their what they call nerd prom. So it's a big deal in the business. Everybody's getting dressed up and I'm getting dressed up and it's a lot of fun. But it's a lot of work, It takes a lot of energy to, really, be interfacing day in and day out for multiple days, with clients, with executives, with people in the business. But it definitely is, not the norm where I'm all, normally I'm answering emails and doing phone calls and, reading trades and doing those and doing negotiations. But, the last couple of days I was in DC last weekend actually, and it was quite a highlight and quite a good time to celebrate freedom of the press. So certainly, enjoyed that time.
What do you think, Teddy?
Oh, the past few weeks.
Yeah, just like some
yeah.
As you say, you have to watch a lot of TikTok, things like that.
I mean,
talk a little bit about
my
that.
TikTok views are what I do at night when I get home. I sit there and try to catch up on a lot of it, what we do is we have to stay on top of what our clients are posting because, God forbid someone's like, yo, I saw what so-and-so posted. I'm like, I didn't. What did they do this time? Or what did they say? It's not too many red flags, but yeah, a lot of it is spent on the social media channels, trying to, keep up with not only what my clients are doing, but, again, identifying the next big person or who I'm going to go after, whatever that might be. So that is a large portion of the day. The rest of it, of course, is, doing outreach for my clients, elevating to the next point. There's only so many, Coca-Cola posts you could do before it's like, okay, what's next? And identifying those opportunities and whether or not it's like, hey, one of my clients says, hey, I'm at the point now where I want to write a book. I'm like, okay, you have a great story. Let's find you a lit agent at UTA. Or, I want to go into hosting. We had Matt Friend at the White House Correspondence Center as one of my clients, and now he's having a huge moment. So it's like about placing those talent at the right things, and then, keeping up with them, doing the, the research after the fact, and then identifying the new people. Like, there could be another agent who saw Matt Friend at White House Correspondence Center who's going to be like, yo, we want him. And, it's about protecting them and showing the love, too.
Yes. Do you have a lane within the social media and stuff that you tend to gravitate towards?
So a lot of people think that because my background was modeling agencies that I have a very big, most of my knowledge is in fashion. So I have a lot of fashion relationships with the major houses. But I really do try to look more into the lifestyle. I've really branched into a lot of sports stuff too. We had talent. I like to take talent and put them outside of their comfort zone. Like place people at things like the Super Bowl that you wouldn't normally think that they would align with, and it really kind of helps them broaden their opportunities. And it puts us on a spot where it says, okay, great, UTA has this roster of people who are so multi-hyphenate that we can come to them for more opportunities. So I guess technically, I do kind of stay in fashion lifestyle lane, but I am very comfortable with branching out.
Okay, great. Sharon, tell us a little bit about your some highlights.
Oh my goodness. So, you use the word multi-hyphenate. That's the type of client that we always target, and most of our clients are on our roster that are multi-hyphenate, which means they can do multiple things. They have their core business, but we're trying to find other ways to expand their business and just have this entrepreneurial mindset. So because of that, we have to be very, very strategic. It can't just be transactional, where we're waiting for their contract to be up and then we renegotiate a deal. But we're always thinking about, okay, outside of 2-3 years from now, what should we be looking at? How can we help you to grow? So of course, everybody has been reading about the NBA deal, right? And who's going to get it? ESPN and Turner with their exclusive negotiating period, and then it just opened up last week. So now there's so many other buyers that are kind of in the game, so to speak. So we're always thinking about, on the sports broadcast side, how are we gonna kind of who would fit into different roles at different platforms based on the platform's DNA, and especially with the NBA. So do some reading on how that negotiation's going. It's really, really brilliant the way Adam Silver is working. So we look at that in terms of how it's like a puzzle piece, just looking at our clients and how we can fit them in to prospective new business and new buyers. And then on the other side, because I represent production companies, we do have production companies that all of our production companies have to have different ideas, docuseries ideas, documentary ideas, all of those things. Once it's fully baked, we then go out to various networks and set up pitch meetings where our production companies would pitch the idea to these networks. These are development people in these, at the networks or the streaming channels. They're not talent, talent execs. These are development execs that will really be able to say, okay, at the end of the day, we're going to meet as a group and decide whether or not your documentary is going to end up on Peacock or Netflix or Hulu or wherever it might be. So there's a few places that I had to, I was working with clients, production company clients, where I had to take it out we call it taking it out to market. And we've had some pitches, and some of them are great, some of them went okay. And the goal of that is to make sure that it's sold, that we can sell the documentary, the docuseries, the idea, whatever it might be. So I've been working on that as well.
What I was going to ask you guys what you think, what's a challenging aspect of this job? And I think Teddy touched on something about watching your clients, make sure your clients are doing well. There's a lot of agents out there that will, will come in and try to take your clients. So that I think is one thing that's very challenging. Tracy, what do you would say is a challenging part of this job?
I think the industry, I've been in the industry now 20 years. When I started, there was VHS tapes. That'll tell you something. We're not there anymore, right? So what's challenging is that we have to evolve with the times, and that means our clients also have to as well, and we have to be thinking about the future and opportunities for the future for our clients, in many different facets and ways to create revenue for them, and so that's part of the job, but it's a challenge as things move quickly. And interests don't always align with where the industry's going in some of our clients as well, and having to talk through that and get them to the point where they understand this is where we're going, and so we need to be thinking this way and growing and evolving with the industry. So I think that it impacts the just growth. The growth of the industry just impacts day in and day out to some degree. But again, we could be selective. And work with forward-thinking individuals and clients and brands, et cetera. So that's what we have to do to kind of get past that, and that's what works for us.
Is there anything, Sharon, that you find challenging?
Oh my goodness, the industry has changed dramatically.
Yeah.
It's a soft market, which means that advertisers aren't pouring in dollars to networks and streamers the way they have been in the past, and they're very, very tight with that. And as a result of that, there's not a lot of opportunities to place your clients in positions or in, they're not, remember I just described to you about a production company trying to pitch an idea. A lot of folks are saying no. Budgets are much smaller. And they're all trying to figure out, well, how could we get this audience? Because the cable audience is diminishing. Broadcast, to a certain extent, is diminishing unless it's live sports, right? But then you're looking at streaming channels, and sometimes it's hit or miss. And so everyone's trying to figure out how to get a win. And as a result of that, everyone is very, very, when I say everyone, I'm saying buyers are very, very stingy these days. And there's a lot of consolidation, Again, read the trades. You're seeing what's happening with CBS and being sold, and you're seeing, one company is consolidating with another, and because of that, layoffs are happening. That happened last year and the year before, and so those are some of the challenges that we have to think about. So we have to rethink how we do business in so many different ways, because it's going to be different in a year and even 5 years from now.
Let's talk a little bit about diversity and why it's important in the clients you work with, but also, I guess, in media in general. Tell us a little bit about that, if you want to start, Sharon.
Wow, I am so passionate about it. I've seen so many iterations of DEI in different places. It's like it's hot, and then it's not, and then it's fatigue. There's just so many different things that happens, and it's very, very troubling. But the bottom line is we do have diverse clients, right? And diversity it's not just people of color, but it is white, and it is women, and it is LGBTQ plus as well, right? But then the audience that our clients serve are also diverse. So we as agents really need to be reflective of that. And it's a challenge because, all right, look at me. I'm Black. My name is, I have an Asian name, like last name Chang, so people wouldn't really know that I'm Black, right? Female. I do not fit the prototypical look of what an agent should have looked like years ago, right? And so that's a challenge in itself, to then bring more people of color into the agency business, right? And then it is a hard job. We're managing people, we're managing expectations, we're managing lives, we're managing careers, and so it's a lot. It can mess with you, and then the expectation to build businesses and to generate revenue is even more intense. But in terms of diversity, I think it's gotten better in terms of the pool. That yes, there are a pool of very, very talented people of color, whether it's as an agent or a writer or a showrunner or a director or on-air talent. They've diversified, but behind the scenes, producers, that's the key. Those are the key areas. So when but it's difficult when you're one of one and you don't see anyone that you could aspire to be. And so even within our agency, I do a lot of things where I am looking at the next generation and I'm fighting hard because I'm the only Black female partner at WME, and I want to see more Black female partners come up, and also partners of color in general come up. That's very, very important. So I'm going to do everything I can to really empower that next group, that next generation coming up. And we've done a few programs, but it can't be performative. It has to be a long game, and it has to be something that at the highest level, senior management is committed to. And we do have great senior management at my company. So.
And Teddy, client-wise, tell us the significance of diversifying your clients as well.
I think for us, I think with us it is important, and it's something we've put a lot of focus on. It's something that I think with having the digital platforms, everyone has that platform to speak on and to talk about diversity on it. And the great thing about what we can do is we can pull the analytics. We can take any client that we have and say, okay, listen, this is more of the audience that you're really appealing to. This is where you should work on it. And this is, we want you to be more inclusive in your content. And I think for me, it's always about educating my clients on how to appeal to a broader base and to really if I feel like, hey, you're, you're tunnel visioning into one area, how to broaden that and to be more inclusive. But I think right now we have so many great clients that have really been inclusive and have been good at, speaking to a lot of different points and appealing to a lot of audiences and brands alike.
Tracy, you represent a fair amount of diverse clients.
I do.
Always from our history together.
Yeah.
What do you gravitate to them? Do they gravitate to you, or is it just tell me how that you got your clients?
Sure. Yeah, I think, I think that we need to tell stories that reflect communities of all backgrounds, and the storytellers that I represent, whether or not it's via books, whether or not it's, on television, et cetera, they're doing that and they're committed to that, and they're very intentional in those spaces. And I definitely am very passionate about that and want to continue to, be somebody who advocates for their presence, whether or not it's in any of these platforms. So it's very important to me to do so. And as far as, I think, I represent an array of individuals and with all backgrounds, and I'm, open to that. But I certainly just, think that, yes, people tend to, want to work with someone that they feel is very like-minded, mm-hmm. and so to some degree, maybe that's the case. That's why it happens. Okay. But certainly, I think that when it comes to agents, we don't have enough people of color and women, and mm-hmm. And diversity and representation, and also executives, in certain companies. So we just have to figure out ways to continue to be in these spaces and help people figure this out so that they can.
So let's talk a little bit about advice, and I mean, you've said a couple times, Sharon, about reading the trades and stuff like that. So if anybody in the audience, hopefully a lot of you are interested in this field, what are some of the things they should be reading, whether it be newsletters, publications, things like that? What are mm-hmm. what would you? I'm curious what you would all sort of say, or what you read to sort of keep up with it.
Wow, a lot of the digital outlets, right? There are, basically the New York Times, also Bloomberg, News Blues, if on the news side, Puck, believe it or not, mm-hmm. Lots of really, really interesting news there across the board. And just really being well read in general is very, very important. Understanding what is happening in the world, because it's affecting everything that your clients are doing and even your colleagues are doing. And also just the importance of not limiting yourself. I could have been, even though it wasn't as if I was looking to be in the sports world, I could have been just very, very, very focused on, I'm just going to watch sports. But no, you've got to just have a broader sense of the world. I went to Vassar College, yay, liberal arts, And so I always wanted to find out more about what's happening. So I'm watching everything, watching, whether it's documentaries, but just on different levels. That's very, very important, just to have a broad sense of what is happening in the world. And it makes you well versed in rooms, but also helps you with really to advance the businesses of your clients as well.
And Teddy, what would you say outside of social media that you would recommend reading, or again, I don't know if it's a trade necessarily, but
it's difficult for us.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of things. What I do, how I identify people who, especially like more in like the space of entertainment and culture, I do look at like I watch like the Hollywood Reporter, Deadline, any of those digital channels, and then try to follow it in the trades as well. One thing that I did early on was and this is gonna sound really cheesy, but I promise you it works, is you look at the talent who are kind of like up and coming right now, or the big ones right now. Like, I find where Alex Earl's photographed in a trade or whatever, and see who she's with. And then identify the people that she's hanging out with, or that particular talent's hanging out with. We've done that a lot to scout talent in the digital space, because it's like, okay, we're looking for the +1 talent who we can then develop into the next it person on TikTok or YouTube or Instagram. And I feel like a lot of the ones that we've identified we've been reading about. It'll be, reading in a trade, or so-and-so was with so-and-so at the Vanity Fair party last night. And then, okay, well, let me look at their channels. Oh, they have 500,000 followers. They must be influential in some capacity. But for as far as like just, following the trends of what's happening in the digital world, or I'm a big one on the, whether it's Variety or Deadline or Hollywood Reporter or following tech news.
So for me, since I have a lot of touch points. We have our marketing group, so we have like Ad Week that comes in. I find that to be really good. Then like Politico, politics on that sub base. Sports Business Journal. I think is really helpful in our sports. I'm at a sports agency, and so I need to know what's going on and be informed. And so I'm obviously reading that, and then. Also, the New York Times, I wake up and I'm ready to go with the New York Times. I love Variety. That's the best. They have all the gossip. It just pops up and
best.
I'm in it, and and then obviously I just think some of the professional social media like LinkedIn is very helpful just to know what's going on with your peers, right? And sometimes it's good to just be a little granular like that. And so when you're in spaces, when you're around them and networking, you're able to network a little intentionally and be able to talk about what's happening in their space and know key things that they would be surprised that you know about, just because you've been kind of just keeping tabs on what they're doing. So I think it's important to think about the industry folks and what they're doing it through some professional sites as well.
Okay, great. So we have a couple minutes before Q&A, so I do want to, again, bring it back to the audience a little bit in terms of if anyone in the audience is looking for representation. As quickly as we can go here, what should they look out for in an agent, and what should they avoid in an agent?
You want to start with me? Oh my goodness. Someone who is passionate about you. I hate to use the word passion, but an agent has to be passionate about the clients that they are representing and serving. And they have to be so curious about almost seeing the possibility, not just what is, what is in front of you, but also what's ahead. And being able to kind of speak into that. And also just being able to, we're your advocate, we're your just intermediary, and we're going to have to be able to articulate everything about you in a not only passionate way, but in a way that ultimately lands you that opportunity. And so you need that in your agent. An agent that is also very, that cares. So it's not just a transactional thing. So someone that is going to, reach out all the time, will answer your phone calls, just basic things. I mean, you don't know that when you're signing with an agent, but usually, you can find out from other folks that are being represented by that agent, right? And so it's a reputation, integrity, just a sense of just making sure that there's transparency, because you hear about situations where a buyer or network will say something to the agent and then they don't tell their client. Like it's just really, that to me is just unconscionable. So communication and really being their, they're the best advocate and not only cheerleader, but beyond that, that you can be on behalf of the client.
What do you think, Tracy?
Yeah, I mean, I think that an agent and manager, like the two have kind of been blended together essentially now. And I say that because you really are looking for career advice, personal advice to some degree, because it kind of meshes together as you navigate your journey personally and professionally. Someone who's understanding, who's just really a compassionate individual and cares, like you said, about your livelihood, about your life. That's the type of representation you want, because it's impacting your life so significantly, right? So, and also a strong work ethic is key, right? For agents, and they're entrepreneurs, they're builders, right? They're building their businesses. So you want someone who is actually doing that day in and day out. You see growth within them and through their work ethic. And then I think that all those variables, all those things connecting well can make for a good union and partnership.
Is there anything to avoid, Teddy, off the top of your head?
Yeah, well, it's funny. I think the best thing that makes an agent is someone who isn't going to agent them. Like, they want someone who's relatable and can have a conversation, and they can call me up and say, yo, this happened, this is what I'm dealing with, these are my thoughts. They want to talk to someone who's like almost like a friend, someone who's they're coming to for advice. Like, most of my clients, I just signed someone recently, and the one thing they said out of our competing meeting, don't worry, neither of y'all, they said that the person in the other meeting agented me too hard, I wasn't even signed yet. So, and that's one of those things, like, I'm the type of person that I don't really, I take things off of like that professional level to a point where it's like, I'll pick up the phone, I'll have a good conversation, and we'll get down to business. And even if it means like going out to lunch or like making it very like kind of informal, so that way they become almost like they get really to know you personally.
Yep.
And that way, if you do need to address an issue, it's like, okay, this is what happened.
Established.
We're gonna work through it, but I need to let you know what you did wrong. And that way, you're not like they don't feel talked down to. They feel like we're working on a problem together.
Okay, great. There's so much more I know we can all say, but we'll get some questions asked, and feel free, just in the essence of time, if you want to direct it at someone, feel free to. You're not going to hurt anybody's feelings. And then we can hopefully get a few more questions in that way. Or not. Or we can just do it. Yeah, come on up.
Hi, my name is Daniela. I'm at Tandon. So my question is directed to you, Sharon.
Yes.
You were talking a little bit about pitching, like with your production companies, your clients, and going around and pitching. I wanted to get more insight about the pathway to selling. So what does that cycle look like in terms of like your production company has a really good idea, great, now put it together, okay, where are we going? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you for that question, Daniela. And what did you say? You were from Tand? Okay. All right. Pleasure to meet you and connect with you. So what happens with production companies? They might have an idea based on IP that they've seen, that they've read. Could be an article, could be a person that's an interesting subject or a subject matter. Because what ends up really selling is the story. Whatever that storyline is, right? And so it starts with that, and then they're responsible for getting attachment agreements. So what I mean by that is, let's say the idea is around a team, right? So the members of the team, does the production company own the IP, or are they these individuals willing to attach themselves to a show around them, right? So that's key. Then they develop the idea a little, just flesh it out. And then they have a whole team of folks that are working on the possibilities of a sizzle reel. Also maybe a deck. They have a log line. They've decided what the title, a working title of the project could be. And then it's up to, what we normally do at WME, we do have meetings, monthly meetings, development calls with our production companies, and we really go through their slate. We call it their slate. And when it's ready to be, quote unquote, taken out to market, we will then suggest to them, here are 5 buyers, whether it's a streaming channel, cable network, broadcast network, that the subject matter fits into what they want. It fits into their mandate. Because there are so many places that they may not be looking for a game show. They may not be looking for a love and relationships show. So don't pitch that type of format to them, right? And so we then kind of strategize on our pitch strategy. Then it's up to the agent to reach out to the development folks and just say, here's the idea, here's the production company. And sometimes the buyers, because they have relationships with these production companies, or maybe there's a filmmaker attached to the project, and they're very and they're used to them and they like their work, they may automatically say, I don't even need to see anything, I'm ready to hear the pitch. Other times it's, all right, you know what, I'm curious, let's hear more. So we set up these pitch meetings, and then the production companies pretty much lay out how they're going to tell this story. What would it look like on TV? If it's a series, a limited series, how many episodes? What does each episode look like? Those types of things. So they get into the kind of the nitty-gritty of it all. And that's pretty much, and then at the end of the day, it's up to me to follow up and see if they want to buy it. And then there's another process of negotiating that deal if the buyer wants to have the show on the air. Sometimes, and this is my last thing, sometimes buyers do development deals. They will say, oh my goodness, I love the idea, but it needs more development. So we're going to give you a certain amount of money to help develop it out a little bit, and you have to put a presentation tape together. And then they make a decision after a period of time whether or not they want it to be picked up to series. So that's a long way of answering.
Hey guys, thank you so much for speaking today. My name is Matt. I'm with the Center for Communications as an event intern. I recently graduated from Baruch College, but thank you so much.
Congratulations.
My question is basically, like strategies for emails. I know you guys are, being agents, it's a big part of what you do. And I would love to know a little bit about strategies you use within Warden to communicate with your clients. I think that's a big thing in this market, so I would love to know a little bit about some strategies.
Are you asking for agents that are trying to pitch a client?
Yes.
Okay. Go.
Well, I'm sorry, pitch a client to like a brand?
Or to get them to
Reach out to a talent and say,
Yeah.
hey, come be
Yeah.
right by me?
Yes.
I keep it casual. Like I email them or I DM them, and if they don't have an email, so I try to navigate it a little delicately. If they have like another agency email in their bio, like usually I go to Instagram or TikTok, wherever I find them, and if they have another agency email, I try to be respectful of that. I'm not gonna reach out to them, but I will go through their followers, whoever it might be, like who do I have in common, and then I'll reach out. I'll find a way to reach out organically. And I just keep it casual. Hey, I work at UTA, I work in digital. If you're ever looking for representation, I'd love to have a conversation. I'm really impressed by your content. Just be really chill about it. Don't make it very corporate-y, like, hi, I'm Teddy, I'm a agent. Please respond like within a week. Like, make it really chill. Like very talking to you and me, like just between us. Yeah.
Also assume that they're going to forward it to somebody.
Yeah. That's the other thing.
Right?
So like you
Just
say,
always
I
assume-
don't,
that
I'll
is-
say
that's
something
gonna
like, not
happen.
sure if you already have representation,
Right.
but I'm really impressed by your content. I'd love to have a conversation with you if you ever have some time.
Right.
So that way, if they're forwarding it to their agent at WME, it's like, hey, this guy's trying to poach me. I'm like, no, actually, I wasn't. I put in there. I have an insurance policy. So yeah, it's just I try, but
that's
I
okay.
wouldn't want somebody to do it to my client.
Right.
Right,
it's
not
like,
intentionally, yeah.
Thank you guys.
Yeah, sure.
everybody. My name's Leah Rogers. Here
What's your
Yeah,
first
come
name?
up a little bit.
My name's Leah.
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 Yeah, sorry. My name's Leah Rogers. I'm a recent College of New Jersey graduate, but I'm currently teaching. So I kind of like see those similar values of like identifying your talent, trying to mold them, and kind of make them with their best possibility. I guess my question is specifically for Tracy. When I was reading your bio, you mentioned that you had a CHU United internship program for HBCU students.
Yes.
I wanted to know if you have any other opportunities for just recent grads, or even if you have any recent grad opportunities.
Yeah, so congratulations.
Thank
I'm a
you.
RU grad, and
period.
so there you go, Jersey all the way. And so yes, so HBCU program that I started with my colleague Bobby Height in talent representation. I'm really proud of it. You know, that is a program that we've had for students that are, you know, there for the semester. And then we also do have internship programs as well at CSE. And that's generally during the summer. So I know you just graduated, so you're looking right. But, you know, listen, we have a junior agent program too that, you know, has been really, you know, I think great for us because we've been able to hire from that, you know, and that's a lot for, you know, a medium-sized agency, you know, to have the you know, with the infrastructure that we have. But certainly reach out to me. I'm happy to talk to you about your background and, you know, and see if we can be of help in any way.
For sure. Thank
Okay.
you so much.
Thanks. Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Hi, I'm kind of short.
That's okay.
Hi, I'm Miranda Wilkins. I'm a senior. I am studying sociology with a minor in the business of entertainment, media, and technology. It's very specific at NYU. I graduate in exactly 2 weeks from today.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I don't believe it's happening. My question is for Sharon.
What's your first name again?
Oh, Miranda.
Miranda.
Yes, it's final season, so I'm speaking quickly
Okay.
because I'm
Oh,
underslept.
good. I'm excited.
Yes, I'm curious about the future of non-scripted. It seems like docs and docuseries are really exploding right now. They're having a big moment. Those are kind of getting greenlit more. I'm actually interning with a documentary right now. And cable is struggling to get that live real-time audience other than sports. And in, you know, one of these business of entertainment classes, we've talked about no cords versus like cord cutters. And a lot of people in my classrooms, Gen Z, they don't watch cable. I only have it because I got a pandemic deal of watching cable. And I see a lot of the ads are pharmaceutical ads and ads geared at people who are middle-aged and older. And we were talking about the Super Bowl, and actually a lot of people didn't watch it, but they also had trouble accessing it. They couldn't get it online, so they didn't watch it. And so, you know, game shows have a bit of it, some live events, but not all. So do we think that it's going to be continue to have these non-scripted shows? Reality shows have some of the younger audience. I mean, what's the way to get sort of the younger audience?
First of all, great question. And it seems like you've done a lot of research and homework.
I think about
That's
this kind of stuff all the time.
fantastic.
So
That's fantastic.
I want to be in this business somehow.
You know, so it seems like there is a really this groundswell of audiences looking at YouTube now and fast channels like Roku and Tubi, and so you're seeing a lot of our, whether they're streaming channels or broadcast networks or cable networks, also using those fast channels as a second distributor. So you know, but maybe a condensed version of the show or whatever it might be, or the content. And so it's just going in so many different directions. But then when you think about the Super Bowl, it was a competitive game, and even though some people couldn't access it, it was probably the greatest, like the number, it was like millions watching, you know, set kind of in the past 5 or 6 years, who knows? I can't remember the stats. So folks do tune in when you think about even women's basketball and what happened with the
That was a
women's
big
basketball
deal.
tournament.
Yes.
It was a big deal, big audiences. So they tune into live sports, you know, and live events. But it's evolving in so many different ways. Everyone is trying to figure it out, but they are moving towards these fast channels because it's again, like YouTube, everyone's posting on YouTube. You're seeing new podcasts that aren't going through the traditional route, where it's not going through iHeart, Sirius, or Spotify, but they just drop drop the content on YouTube, and then go and then sponsors come from there. So there's a lot of it. It's a little bit more of a lengthier conversation, but the direction that I mentioned in terms of those fast channels, that's one thing that we're looking at very, very closely.
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Thank you. So, there's Kate. Are we good to couple more questions? Okay, great.
Okay. First of all, I just wanted to say thank you for that because I was going to do 2 questions and then you got one of them done. So cool. Thank you. I'm Rosa. I found out about this through RealWorks, and I'm currently at HBO as a localization coordinator, but I'm trying to pivot into producing type role. So I just wanted to ask, like, since you guys, from what it sounds like, have very like time consuming and like heavy schedules, and I think I was kind of panicking about this even while I was like looking for jobs again today. But how do you kind of sustain your relationships with your loved ones having such full schedules? Sorry.
You know what? I can just say very briefly is that really things really changed during COVID and after COVID in terms of the maybe the grace that we get from our companies and bosses, where you can work virtually. If you have to have an appointment, go and go for your appointment. And just really kind of thinking about what's most important, just in terms of the priorities, your family, and if you have children, all of those things, right? And I think more and more corporations, and even in entertainment, they're looking at it in that way. So you're seeing quite a few companies go from, instead of that 5-day a week thing, even though we do work 7 days, right? But like a 5-day in office to 4 days, or 3 days, so which really, really helps in terms of your lifestyle. In the roles that we're in, it is very intense. But you have to shut it off sometimes, and make sure that you really protect your peace and protect your mental health.
Yeah. I just want to add to that. I think about sustainability. It's a career. It's a lifestyle. And you find joy in it. And in seasons, it's going to be a little bit more intense. But then, you'll block out time for family and be intentional about that so you can sustain, right? And go the long haul. So you just, it is a mindset. And you have to be just intentional about, carving out your moments with your family and your friends. But with that phone, that little phone that I have, that's always around me, not right now, I'm always up to date. I'm always, kind of just, I know what's happening, and I'm fine with that, I'm okay because I don't mind. I'd rather just be aware of what's happening with whatever's going on with my clients, et cetera. And that just allows me to just be even better, I think, when it comes to family and my job.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay. Thank
Makes
you.
sense?
Welcome.
Hi, my name is Isabel, and I'm about to graduate from Baruch College.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I don't know the exact way to word this, but I'm very curious about like the day-to-day life as an agent, and I guess I'm curious to how much leverage you have in like finding new talent and taking chances on people versus really just like bringing in the company money and kind of looking for someone that like, do you get direction on who you're picking, or do you kind of have free range?
Free range.
Yeah, autonomy, complete autonomy.
Wow.
And that was like, I remember when I started UTA 2 years ago, that was one of the big things, that was a big selling point to me, because I came from a place where they were kind of like directing us towards the type of talent they wanted for the agency. And one of the big things that when I was hired, they said, go out, be like, obviously we always kind of like talk about we have like tomorrow, for example, we have our bi-weekly signing meeting, which is where we all kind of pull together the names that we've been tracking over the past 2 weeks, and we get everyone's opinion. But if I feel passionately about a talent and my coworkers don't, I'm still allowed to go sign them. And then, I could, if everyone's right and I was wrong, I will never tell them. But they might disappear from the roster one day. But then vice versa, more often than not happens, where it's like, okay, this person, I did see something. And then in that meeting, people would be like, wait, I like that person too, and we can create a team around it. So yeah, for us, it's pretty free reign.
I mean, your job as an agent is to get someone a job.
Right.
Right? So what you don't want to do is collect people, and then you're stuck with trying to find people jobs that are not, it's just, not viable for a job sometimes. So that's something, there are people that will just get as many clients as they can, but then they really have to work to get them jobs, and sometimes.
And don't do that
and
because
don't-
sometimes you can end up with like 30 people that are
Correct.
hounding you
Correct.
all days,
Yep.
all day.
Yep.
There are times where you're handed clients when you start out at an agency. Sometimes you might get a set that an agent doesn't want anymore, unfortunately.
Yep.
But I think that, listen, the person that figures it out and can create ways to grow somebody, that's the agent you want to be around. So it's okay to get a challenge. Like, I'm okay with that. Give me a challenge. I'm going to figure it out. Like, that's just how it works.
Get creative.
You have to be that way. Like, it's like a relentless type of person. So,
Good to know. Thank you guys.
yeah.
Hello, everybody. My name is Pierre, and I currently go to Hunter College. And my question is, what are the typical entry-level positions or opportunities for individuals looking to break into the talent agent field?
Like for us, it's the mailroom, or assistant jobs. You have to that's one of the things that everyone I think comes into this industry. I think understanding that you have to start at the bottom.
Yes.
You're never going to walk in and be an agent or a manager on day one. And it's not just because people don't think you're capable. There are so many different things that you have to learn that you don't even think about. Being an assistant to an agent, being an assistant to a manager, you're learning all these things that you cannot learn in a book. It's, so much personality, navigating so many intricate problems that you're listening on phone calls, you're reading emails, you're understanding how to, negotiate and talk to people. So yeah, starting at the bottom, like assistant, mailroom, internships, that type of thing.
Those jobs are all posted too.
Yeah.
All the talent agencies post their jobs. Yeah.
And a follow-up, how long did it take to pivot away from leveling up to scaling yourself upwards from starting from the bottom?
I don't have a traditional background in this, so I mean, but I would imagine it's at least
From
two
mailroom
years.
to agent, for me, it was 8 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have a program called a trainee program, and that is a program where we're sourcing assistants that are strong, either assistants or it's usually assistants, coordinators, and then agents, right?
Yeah.
So either assistants and we have assistants and coordinators in the program that we are targeting to be our future agents. And usually that opportunity comes along in the first 12 to 18 months, right? And then if they do well, they can be an agent in 4 or 5 years. So it really just depends on how well you do in your in that entry level position.
And that's why I jumped around. So don't use 8 years as your thing. I went from I started an agency, went to another one. I was a manager for a minute. To say it changes. You could be promoted very quickly. It's just everyone is different. There's no real math to that path. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, thank you for having me. My name is Harry Neese. I graduated from Binghamton University and I'm one of the interns at Center for Communications. And my question, thank you. One of my questions was in regards to challenges, how do you navigate challenges within someone who is trying to be represented or is represented by you? How do you handle those challenges or maybe possible conflicts where you're trying to help them but maybe they're not understanding that you are trying to reach out and help them in that sense?
Anyway, you want me to do it?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm a New Yorker. I'm a straight shooter.
Okay.
So, you're going to hear from me and know exactly where I stand on something. And if we're not communicating the way we should be, then we're going to figure it out and we're going to talk it through. And I'm going to be very straightforward about it. And we're going to find a way to have a meeting of the minds. That's just how it's going to be. So, sometimes you have to have those hard moments to get to the good place. And that's okay. That's what communication is about, as long as you are communicating. And so I love when there's, those little challenges, because it's eventually we'll get through it and it'll make sense. So It's pretty much, probably what we do all the time. Just not even
Just
thinking
tough
about
love.
it.
Yeah. The important part, though, is to make sure that you nip it in the bud quickly.
Okay.
So if you see something that you don't want it to exacerbate into something much bigger, right? You want to really just have that open conversation with your client early enough.
Yeah, I was asking because I'm like kind of like shy and like very kind, so I wanted to know like how do we like maybe you navigate conflict or anything like that.
I think what's also important though is that if it's an issue of, all right, you're not, I wasn't able to get this job that I wanted and you couldn't help me with it, always come with also a solution. Like this didn't work, but why don't we think about this as well? As they're looking at you to help them to navigate through those waters. So
Absolutely.
that's very important.
Thank you all.
And you could be nice and be an agent too.
Absolutely.
You don't have to
Absolutely.
you don't have to be an asshole.
There's so many personalities, But thank you.
I think we're going a little over,
Oh,
right?
is
So
there-
do this.
We take 2 more.
Two more? Perfect. Okay, great.
Hi,
Hi.
my name
Hi.
is Carice. I'm currently a sophomore at Baruch College.
Yeah.
And my question is, what are some common mistakes that aspiring talent agents make?
Aspiring.
And they should avoid,
I blocked a
actually.
lot of those out.
I think I could easily say that you sign too quickly.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
You have too many people on your roster. You're thinking, I'm new. I've got this person's good. I think this person's good. And you just make this long list, and then you end up having to manage a lot of expectations and not being able to place them. As Mary said, you have to place them somewhere, not being able, and then you have them on your roster, and then you end up with those challenges that the young lady just referred to. So you have to just really roll slow. Make sure you have mentors around you, other agents with experience that can really help you to navigate your roster. And have a POV just in terms of understand what your tastes are in terms of the approach you want to take, the type of client that you want to sign, and take your time.
Yeah, I just want to add to that also. You want to just take a moment and evaluate the needs of the agency as well, right? Because if you see that they represent a lot of production companies, they're covered in that space, or a lot of broadcasters, and so what niche can you figure out for yourself that you're passionate about, so that you can add value to the space that you're in and the agency that you're in. And then obviously try not to take on any projects, and that's when you need a little bit of advice and counsel on what a project might be. So just take your time. And some agencies, young agents, just rush and they want to get wins, but it's better to be more strategic about it and just have a process so that you are not sinking down the road, because we want you to win. That's the whole point, right?
And don't say too much. Keep a lot of details close to the chest. You don't want to ever overpromise and undersell. And there are untrustworthy people in the industry. So, just kind of keep things, like when you're working a deal and things like that, keep it all to yourself until it's final, until there's in writing and there's a contract.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.
Hello, my name is Anna. I was just wondering in regards to diversity, how do you create, or what advice do you give to create a space for your talents in regards to diversity, since there are places that diversity can be a little bit complicated? Or what advice do you give to your talent when a space, they have to go there, but it's not so welcoming? Like how do you navigate those type of things, those spaces?
I mean, for me, a lot of my talent are out, they're on social media, they're talking. I always just say, careful what you say, be inclusive, be respectful of your audience. You don't know who's, everyone's watching. It's not about it. And it shouldn't be a matter of being careful. You should always be, cognizant of people's feelings and, respect everybody. So for me, it's just a general rule of thumb. Be a good person and be respectful.
Thanks.
Thank you. All right. We're good? Thank you, guys.